What's going on, guys? This is BruskPoet, host of the BruskPoet YouTube channel. In fact, the only host of my channel, of course. I am currently a Combat League demon who's got to Elder God rank back in Season 1 and almost there for Season 2, and the creator of unique guides for Mortal Kombat 1 like my Mythbuster series. And in today's video, we're going to be going over a general guide on balancing your offense and your defense. Before we start, be sure to subscribe to Dash Fight for more character guides and check out their website for all things FGC. Alrighty guys, so because this is a general guide on how to balance your offense and your defense in Mortal Kombat 1, a lot of what I'm going to say in this video is going to vary between characters. So what I would like you guys to do is take your main character and ask yourself, what is their plan in the match? Are they a zoner type of character? Are they a grappler kind of character? Are they a rushdown type of character? Do they play well when they're playing very aggressively? Or are they kind of laid back and stay in the neutral defensive type of character? Or are they well-rounded? In this video, I'm going to be using Ashrah as an example because she has really great tools to work with if she wants to be up close and aggressive on your opponent, or if you want to play a little bit more neutral with some more space, she definitely has great tools for that. And she's not the best zoner in the world, but she does have decent zoning, and depending on what cameo you have equipped for her, she can actually have a pretty good zoning game going on for her. So yeah, ask yourself those questions. Are they a zoner? Are they rushdown? Do they play well aggressively or defensively? All of that is going to vary between characters. So take your main character and answer those questions. Another important question that you're going to have to ask yourself and applying it to your main character is, what are some of the good pokes that my character has? What are some of the good plus on block buttons that I have? And what are the combo starters that I have that I'm going to find myself using in the everyday average kind of match? I'm not going to do an Ashrah guide because this isn't an Ashrah guide, so I'm not going to be going over all of her special moves. I'm not going to be going over all the different strategies that you can use with Ashrah, but again, I will use her as an example to show you guys what I'm talking about. So one of the best down fours by far, one of the best pokes in the game is Ashrah's down 4. It covers a lot of range and it is -6 on block, so that means it's safe on block. Her down 1 is also good. Everybody has the all reliable down 1, so if you find yourself blocking somebody's down 1, you should probably always go for another down 1 punish and get your turn back. Her down 3 is also good, but it is a -10. It covers some decent range, but I would usually just stick with her down 4 because it essentially does everything her down 3 does, but better. Another thing that she has that isn't, low hitting is her forward 2. It's in the neutral, so if you want to play neutral game, this is also going to be something that you're going to find yourself doing a lot. So make sure you're always using this as a poke. It is also a combo starter, and we'll get to that later on in this video or later on in this section. So one of the cool things about Ashrah as well is that all of her combo starters, like her 2-2 string, that is safe on block, and it is also a combo starter. Her forward 4-2 is also a combo starter, and it is safe on block. Her back 2-2 is also a very good plus on block button. That is also a combo starter. So I'm just going to show you guys all of those different things when my opponent is not blocking. So yeah, that's one of the good things about Ashrah is that all of her buttons that are safe on block that you're going to find yourself, using to stagger for your opponent are also combo starters. Not everybody is going to have that. Not everybody is going to have the grace that Ashrah has, but for sure your opponent or your character, has good buttons to use that will also be combo starters. So make sure you check your combo starters that you're going to find yourself using in the everyday match. Try to look for the plus on block buttons and look for your best pokes, because this is going to give you great offensive tools. So you want to be poking your opponent, you want to be checking them with your pokes as well, and then when your opponent is blocking, you want to just be, using your plus on block buttons as well. And thankfully for Ashrah, all of her plus on block buttons are combo starters. So yeah, again, apply that to your main character. Now let's talk about offensive focus tips. And the first thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about is learning how to play footsies, or learning how to play the neutral. And what does that mean in the most basic terms possible? Well, it means taking the neutral space in the match and learning how to contest it. How can I hit my opponent from a range like this? Because you don't want to be sitting here and waiting for your opponent to do something. You may be really good at blocking, but if this is all you're relying on, it's not going to get you anywhere. You want to be on the offense and figuring out a way to attack your opponent, keeping your opponent in check, figuring out a way, you know, how can I make sure to maybe get a combo off of hitting my opponent from neutral. As you can see, Ashra has a really good forward 2 that covers great ground. This is something that you really want to be doing as an Ashra player, but be careful because it can be neutral ducked. Also, her projectile is really good for this range, but not everybody has the same benefits as Ashra does. Not everybody has a really good forward 2. Not everybody has a really good advancing normal like Ashra's forward 2 to begin with. So what is an advancing normal? Because an advancing normal is going to be a great starting point to figuring out how you can play footsies. An advancing normal is when your character moves with you with the move. As you can see, I'm doing Ashra's forward 2 and I'm moving forward. I'm not walking forward, I'm moving forward with the forward 2. So even then, not everybody's advancing normal is good. So if I try to use Sub-Zero's forward 1 as the same way as I would for Ashra's forward 2, it's not gonna work. Like, this is, I'm gonna get blown up for this if I'm finding myself doing this a lot. Also, I cannot be throwing my ice ball the same way I would be throwing out Ashra's projectile. I'm gonna get blown up for it. So if you find yourself, by the way, this is a good normal. You just want to be doing this up close. So I'm not saying his forward 1 is not good, but don't be using it the same way as you would for Ashra's forward 2. But anyways, if you find yourself in a footsie deficit, in a neutral deficit, maybe equip a cameo like Serena, who covers great range. I mean, this goes full screen. So yeah, if you want to use, you know, Serena because your footsie game is not good, that's going to be a really good choice. She's not the only cameo that would cover this deficit. Kung Lao is also a really good choice to use. But yeah, figuring out your character's advancing normals, that's a great starting point. It is not the end-all be-all, but it is a great starting point, like I said. And then use that in the neutral game. Use that in the footsie game. Learn to hit your opponent from a decent range. This next tip is related to the corner. So let's say you've got your opponent right where you want them to be, dead to rights, backed up into the corner. Well, for some reason, after a knockdown, a lot of people like to back up to around this range right here. And that shouldn't be happening because you're giving a lot of breathing room to your opponent. What should be happening is you relying on your really good pokes, your really good safe on block buttons, or going in for the throw. Because the goal here is to make your opponent feel like they have nowhere else to go, nothing else to do but to do something like that, a wake up armored special. And you want that because you're going to block that because you're good. I know you're good, and you're going to get a full combo punish. So let's see what happens when I back up all the way over here after a knockdown. I'm going to switch over to Sub-Zero, and I'm just going to show you guys how easy it is for them to get so much more breathing room back. Going to make sure that my opponent doesn't wake up or randomly attack me or something like that. Give me a second. All right, so I'm going to do this right here, and look at that. I got so much breathing room. We're basically back to square one right here, and all I did was a slide. And there's so many options that he can do to get even more options, to get even more freedom, like jumping or something like that. So yeah, when you have your opponent in the corner, you always want to make sure that you're up in their face, doing your really good pokes, doing your really good safe on block buttons, or going in for the throw, or try to like hit them if they're blocking low and start out with your low starter combos or your overhead starting combos if they're blocking low or something like that. So yeah, make sure you make them feel like they have nothing else to do nowhere else to go but to do a wake up armored special, because you're going to block it and you're going to keep them in the corner and you're going to get a full combo punish from it. This next tip is about mixing up your jump-ins. So as you know, one of the most common and classic ways to gain some ground in a fighting game and to get in on your opponent is simply by jumping forward. Also, if you want to hit your opponent on your way down, you would simply do a jump kick attack. However, in Mortal Kombat 1, there's a new mechanic called the up block, to where it's built to destroy things like jump kicks. And if you get your jump kick up block, you can get full combo punished or just simply punished for that. So let me show you an example of what that looks like. That's what it looks like right there. And if Sub-Zero wanted to, he can punish me for that. So how do I make sure that I'm not getting up blocked all the time? Well, if you are getting up blocked all the time, chances are you're doing a lot of jump kicks. And if somebody is, smart enough, somebody is going to up block you. They are going to go and catch on and see that you're just constantly jumping, and they're going to up block you and they're going to punish you. So what you want to do is like go in for a few jump kicks here and there and all that, but don't be doing it all the time. Do it enough times to where you feel like your opponent is going to up block you, and what you want to do, jump in and then do something like a throw. Punish them. And when you punish them doing an up block, it does more damage. So you just want to mix it up here and there. You want to go in for a few jumps. You want to go in for a few raw jumps. Just mix it up, make it inconsistent, make your opponent guess, because once you see that they have up blocked while you jumped in, you're gonna get a lot of damage. I mean, look at this right here. I just did like a low starter right there and it counted as a punish. There's nothing that person could have done if they committed to the up block. So yeah, make sure it's inconsistent. Throw in some jump kicks here and there, like maybe do it once, maybe do it twice, maybe do it 3 times, and you see them doing like this a lot. Then yeah, that's when you make sure that you just do a raw jump and then like go for a throw or something like that to punish that up block. It's going to make your opponent go crazy. And again, this is related to offense because this is one of the most common ways to gain ground on your opponent. This is the most common ways to, get in the face of your opponent and things like that. So yeah, this is going to be very, very useful for you to know. Now let's get started talking about general defense tips in Mortal Kombat 1, starting with Flawless Block. One of the mechanics that you're going to need to learn in Mortal Kombat 1 is Flawless Blocking. This is when you block something at the perfect time, and when you Flawless Block, it takes away the chip damage and the opponent's ability to gain meter from the chip damage. And depending on the move and what you Flawless Block, it will mess around with the frame data, so it can make the move unsafe or a little less safe. This is going to be especially useful against a team like Baraka Cyrax, who can do a huge amount of chip damage. So you're going to want to go into the lab and learn whatever character you're struggling with, or whatever character you want to learn in general, and learn where their Flawless Block gaps are. Now, how do you Flawless Block during a block string? Well, that's when you let go of block and then press block super fast. It's pretty tricky and it's going to take some time getting used to, but the more you practice, the more you will master it. I'm going to show you guys an example of one of the most common things that you're going to block against a Baraka Cyrax team. Like, this is going to be something you see all the time when you face against Baraka Cyrax. And I'm going to have you guys compare what it looks like when you regularly block it and when you flawless block it. As you can see, I gained a lot, or I took a lot of chip damage, and Baraka gained meter from that chip damage. Now look what happens when I flawless block this. Look at that. I didn't take a lot of chip damage, and Baraka gained less meter. In fact, he didn't gain any meter because his block strain was flawless block. So this is going to be a huge lifesaver in Combat League, in online, and if you want to play in tournaments, this is also going to be a huge lifesaver, especially when you know everybody's flawless block gaps. Now let's talk about fuzzy guarding. This is when you change blocks against an overhead and low mix-ups basically at the same time against attacks that have an option to hit you overhead or hit you low. For example, Johnny Cage has the string right here, which is his forward 1-2-4, which is an overhead, but he can also do his forward 1-2-3, which ends in a low. Now, what if I told you you can block both of these options at the same time? Well, that's what fuzzy guarding is. And what you're going to want to do is that while you're holding block, you want to quickly press down, block low, let go, and then block high. Super simple like this. You want to tap it. You don't want to hold down and block low. You want to just tap it like that. Super simple. And when Johnny Cage is doing the string, you're going to want to do this method during his gap, and so you can block high against his something like an overhead. I didn't do it right there, so let me try to do it again. As you saw right there, Ashra blocked low just for a second in case Johnny Cage wanted to end that string with the low, but came up just in time to block the overhead. So anytime Johnny Cage is going to go for the low and you're doing this method, it's going to work. You're going to block the low. So what I would recommend doing is going over to your practice settings, going to opponent type, playback recording, and fill up all of these recording slots with the overhead ending string and the low ending string, and then fill them up with all four of them, and then going over to playback trigger, random hidden, and this is going to give you the opportunity, because it's going to mix it up. So this is going to give you the opportunity to practice your fuzzy guarding and practice the overhead and low mix-ups. You're not going to get it done the first time. I'm pretty sure the example I'm going to show you right now, I'm not going to get it done the first time, but that's okay, because remember, practice makes perfect. Messed up. All right, I got that. Got that. Got that again. All right. How many times is he gonna hit me low? Is he not gonna hit me overhead? There we go. So yeah, that's what you're gonna want to do in practice mode. Practice those 50-50s, practice the fuzzy guarding, and this works with the cameo 50-50s as well. If you're having a hard time figuring out how to block overhead and low against like a cameo attack in a regular main character attack, also do exactly what I said in this video with Johnny Cage. This also works with cameo mix-ups as well. If you're having trouble figuring out how to block overhead and low against some cameo characters, so like where a cameo, like, you know, a low hat Lao and an overhead main character attack and things like that, you know, make sure you do this same exact method. Do the overhead low attacks and put them into the slots, and then do the playback trigger thing where it's randomized, and then practice your fuzzy guarding. It's going to be that simple. It's going to be a little bit difficult once you're actually doing it, but again, I'm saying it again for the third time, practice makes perfect. Now, this next thing we're going to talk about is something that we talked about earlier in this video, and that is up blocking. You definitely want to be utilizing up blocking as much as you possibly can. This is going to be a game changer for you, especially online. In online matches and in Combat League, people are going to be jumping and jump kicking constantly, and this is going to be a big game changer for you to counter those people and punish them and blow them up for it. So it's up for you to decide whether or not you're going to let them get that stuff for free, or you're going to blow them up for that. However, if your opponent is smart enough and notices that you're up blocking a lot, pretty much almost every single time that they jump, they're going to go in for the raw jump and they're going to punish you. Like right here, I got punished for that. There was nothing that I can do. I couldn't, you know, like neutral duck or anything. I was stuck in that animation because you can't spam this and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really great mechanic, but it does come at a cost. So if your opponent is constantly jumping, obviously go up for the up block. But if you notice that your opponent is mixing it up a little bit by doing the raw jumps and doing the jump kicks, then, you know, maybe hold off on it. You know, you're going to, with practice, you're going to master this. You're going to figure out when to up block and when to not up block. So yeah, just go online and just practice it a lot. Again, it's going to be easy for you if you know your opponent is always jump kicking, but once you get to those opponents that start being a little bit more of a challenge by mixing it up with the raw jumps and the jump kicks, then that's when you really got to make sure that you master down your up block timing. Now, speaking of jumping opponents, trust me, people in Combat League and people online are going to be jump kicking you and jumping constantly throughout the match. And because of that, it is absolutely crucial that you learn your character's anti-airs, their best anti-airs. Some characters have really good down 2s as their anti-airs because of their range. Not everybody does though, but in Astra's case, she does. It's a very reliable one, so if your character has it and you want to be safe, definitely use the down 2 as the anti-air. But everybody will have at least one normal that will be good as an anti-air. In Astra's case, it's her standing 2. Very good anti-air right there you can do. Some characters also have special moves that can work as anti-airs, and Astra also is another example of that being the case. There we go, and that can lead into a full combo punish. The last thing that you can do, and it's a little bit risky, is jumping with your opponent and using your aerial combat strings to punish their jumps. Again, this is a little bit risky because you do risk them also using their aerial combo strings as well. So something like this. Again, risky, but it's also good because it's also a combo. Now, the last thing I'll say in terms of general defensive gameplay tips for Mortal Kombat 1 is learning how to tech throw. I'll be honest, I've never been good at tech throwing. Not in MKX, not in Mortal Kombat 11, not in any of the Injustice games. And in Mortal Kombat 1, I sort of have that mindset of just taking the throw. You've seen that phrase thrown around a lot in the Street Fighter community, and I completely understand it. But if you're really wanting to learn how to tech throws, if you really want to try, the best piece of advice that I could give you is to mind where you're placed on the stage. Are you in the corner? If so, more likely than not, your opponent is going to do a forward throw because it keeps you in the corner. They want you there, so they're going to keep you there. And if they do a forward throw, how do you tech it? Well, you press either 4 or 2. Either of those buttons, 4 or 2. Even in a place like right here, I'm still close to the corner. So again, more likely than not, my opponent is going to do a forward throw. So I press either 4 or 2. Now, if I'm in the neutral, like in the middle of the stage, it is very possible that my opponent is not gonna really care what direction the throw is going to be. And he's going to rely, or they're gonna rely on the default direction for the throw. And the default is the back throw. Now, how do you tech the back throw? Well, you press either 3 or 1. Just like that, either of those buttons. So you just gotta mind where you're at on the stage. If you're in the corner, you're probably going to get forward thrown. If you're in the neutral, it is very possible, not all the time of course, but it's very possible they're not going to care what direction the throw is in, so it's going to be a neutral throw, which is a back throw. And you just press 3 or you press 1, either of those buttons. Now let's talk about the reason why you clicked on this video, balancing your offense and your defense. Remember the phrase, a good defense is a good offense. A very true phrase, and it's definitely true in fighting games. Now, let's go back to flawless blocking. So in flawless blocking, you want to make sure you figure out the frame data to see if you can attack punish after a flawless block. So for example, this string right here for Liu Kang is flawless blockable, and it is -14. Fully combo punishable if I wanted to. However, this string for Liu Kang is -6. I can't do anything to punish that. It is still his turn. He's still safe on block. So when you get a flawless block, you don't want to automatically start pressing buttons because you think it's your turn because you flawless block. No, your opponent may actually still be safe after you got a flawless block. So you want to check the frame data. You want to go into the lab and check the flawless block strings, practicing that flawless block in general, first of all, and then figuring out, okay, can I actually attack punish? Because if you just start mashing buttons, well, guess what? Your opponent's going to block because they're safe, and they may fully combo punish you. So you may be the one who eats the dirt, even though you are the one who flawless blocked correctly. We're going to be talking about up block again. I swear this is like the third time we've talked about it. So in general, if you get an up block down, make sure you always full combo punish it. I mean, there's no reason for you to not to. You know, don't resort to a down 1 or anything like that. Don't be lame. Assert your dominance. Make sure that you know what to do when you use your up block. Now, we've talked about fuzzy guarding. We've talked about flawless blocking. What if I told you there's a third way to utilize your tools, your defensive tools, against block strings, and that is up block? So you've probably seen Smoke use this string a lot online. It can get kind of annoying. It can be a little bit tricky for new players, and it leaves them +2. A lot of Smoke players like to commit to the string. Well, what if I told you that you can up block in the middle of the string and combo punish it? Ah, see? Now it's going to make him think twice about what he can actually do and what he's actually going to commit to. I think you can even get this down, or you can get this up block down in the second hit. So let me try to get that there. See? Yeah, you can. You can full combo punish Smoke for committing to that string. And there's going to be plenty of strings in the game throughout the cast where you can utilize your up block in the middle of block strings. I think Johnny Cage has one as well. And it's mainly going to be because a lot of these hits that are being up blocked are overheads. So if there's an overhead in the middle of somebody's string, check to see if you can up block it. Because if you up block it, well, it's going to give you the opportunity to get a full combo punish off of it. And yeah, it's going to make them think twice about what to do. And remember what I said, a good defense equals a good offense. Now, what I'm about to say here is going to seem a little bit more on the offensive side, but trust me, there is a defensive element to it. So when you're attacking, if you have a cameo that can pressure your opponent to block, to kind of make it seem like they're forced to block, use it. For example, I like to use Astra Kano as an experimental team. Not a lot of people have been using this, but I absolutely love it. So what I like to do is bring out the Kano knives and gain some ground. Bring out the Kano knives and maybe throw a projectile in there. Bring out the Kano knives and maybe get a full combo. I mean, that didn't work right there. But bring out the Kano knives and get a full combo. Now, what is the defensive element to it? Because your opponent is going to feel pressured, they're probably going to resort to using their armored special. So I'm going to bring out the Kano knives and I'm going to try to gain some ground, and I'm going to program Johnny Cage to use his enhanced shadow kick. Look at that. So even if they try to do something, I have something to defend myself with, and that is the Kano knives. And there are going to be some times where I get hit by the shadow kick, but because the Kano knives are already out, they're going to hit my opponent and do full damage no matter what. So yeah, let me try to show you an example of that happening. It's not in this one. Let's see here. Not here. There we go. See? I got hit by the Johnny Cage shadow kick, but he still took the Kano knives. He still took the damage. So yeah, make sure that you have some sort of ambush cameo if you want to. You know, obviously you choose your own play style, but if you have a cameo character that can ambush your character, make sure you use the ambush as much as you can. They're going to save you if your opponent ends up getting a hit on you. They're going to save you if your opponent tries to get a hit on you by using their armored moves. And so yeah, Astra Kano is a good one. Astra Sector is one a lot of people use. Sector is probably the better cameo to use, but Kano is pretty fun to use in my view. A good thing to note is that if you're struggling against zoners, a good time to switch cameos would probably be now, and the cameo you switch to is Sub-Zero, because Sub-Zero is going to give you the ice armor, and the ice armor is going to be your best friend against zoners because it absorbs projectiles. So you have the opportunity to outzone your opponent, and you're going to find yourself, well, if I'm outzoning them, or if I am just immune to projectiles, I can just walk up and use my offensive tools if I want to, or I can outzone my opponent, and your opponent is not going to feel the need to zone you. They're going to have to, you know, have a different game plan when approaching you with the Sub-Zero cameo. The last thing we're going to be talking about in today's video is utilizing reversal punishes. So, for example, Liu Kang has a forward 4-3-4 string. It's a full block string that if he fully commits to it, it is -4 on block. It also has a gap in it, and every single character in this game has a block string that has a gap in it. And you're going to have to figure out, how do I utilize my armored special to reversal punish? Well, it would be during that gap. So instead of him fully committing to it, I'm going to be using my armored special to reversal punish him during that gap in his string. just like that. I'm telling my opponent, no, you can't do that. That's not something that you can do against me because you're going to take the damage once I have that armor special at my hands. So, in terms of Tremor, because Tremor is a character that just came out, a cameo character that just came out, and I try to figure out how do I utilize him in this guide. Well, in his crystalline variation, he has this crystalline punch, and this crystalline punch can reversal punish every single character's gap in this game. So whatever gap that your opponent has, use this crystalline punch. Look at what I can do against Liu Kang. Actually, I don't have the crystalline armor, so let me have him do it one more time. My bad, guys. That is so much better than having my armored special because I'm using my meter and I'm only using my cameo meter and it regenerates pretty fast. Now, I'm going to do the same thing if Liu Kang tries to pull out his Kung Lao cameo. So if you're a Tremor cameo main, you're going to have a great time punishing these gaps in these characters' strings. It is a great tool to use, so make sure you know where the gaps are in your opponent and either use your armored special or use your Tremor cameo in the crystalline variation with the crystalline punch if you're a cameo Tremor main. He's so much fun to use. I can't wait to see what people do. I can't wait to see what people do with him. That's it for today, folks. You can check out all things shown in this video in the text version via the link in the description. If you like this video, please leave a like or comment below with your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you get that Elder God rank in Combat League.